If you're anything like me and have been tasked with writing adventures for your role playing group, you're probably in a scramble the night or hour before your role playing game nights, trying to come up with exactly how you're gonna slaughter your players. Not anymore! This episode is powered by the new Dungeons and Dragons Mystery Box that's currently on Kickstarter. Jennifer is building a custom 5e Dungeons and Dragons storyline. It will be a mystery, even to the Dungeon Master. This will be a new story with sealed envelopes for the Game Master that will be opened when entering a new area, with either a mystery to solve in the room, creature to attack, NPCs, or puzzles. The player's guide will have each room description available with room for the dungeon master to be able to adjust accordingly, or it can be read exactly for new dungeon masters. It is preset for players levels 1 through 20. Want to know more? Then you're going to want to go back and listen to our sit down with her. The easiest way to find that will be checking out her Kickstarter update entitled Giveaway. We've teamed up with her to bring you an awesome worldwide giveaway in which one lucky winner will win an awesome tower to add to your collection valued at 120 USD. Check that out over at thegiveawaygeek.com. You get extra entries for being subscribed to our show, as I know you are.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
Welcome to Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf. You know, most of the time we talk about board games and stuff on Kickstarter and whatnot. Today we have a lucky treat for you. One of our Kickstarter backers for season 3 of our podcast actually has a game on Kickstarter. Well, not a game, it actually has a book on Kickstarter called Grifty Shades of Fae, a fiction anthology. And today we're lucky enough to be joined by the creator and mastermind from Viction Vortex, Mike Clough, as well as one of the contributors, Dave Farland. Is that right, Mike? Is that how you fit in line with Grifty Shades of Fae?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's an anthology we just barely launched on Kickstarter.
And you're the mastermind behind it?
Yeah. It all started with the title. We were talking about spoonerisms and flipping around letters within titles and things like that. And I shot out the phrase Grifty Shades of Fae, and we decided, hey, we need to make a book out of that.
Well, there you go. Awesome. And you're one of the contributors, Dave. Is that right?
Yeah. It sounds like a fun one to do. The whole idea of fairy stories, I remember reading an article many years ago that was talking about how with fairy tales originally they were all cautionary tales that basically the idea was that Christians shouldn't get involved with, giving milk to the fairies and becoming involved with wizards and things like that. And so this whole idea actually goes back, 1,500 years, as far as I can tell. And if you go back to, for example, the original King Arthur was born because the evil wizard Merlin the magician helped his mother get raped, and so there's this whole idea that even if you're a good person, if you get involved with fairies like Merlin and the Lady of the Lake, you're going to come to a bad end.
So maybe not as family friendly as we would think.
And not as family friendly as you would think. No, that's why so many fairy tales had dark endings.
Yeah, exactly. And I grew up with books in the house about fairy tales. One of them was Irish Tales of Terror, and learning about pukas and banshees and how they would love to lure you to your death and do things like that. it always seemed a little out of place to see, things like Tinkerbell and the modern take of things being being put out there as a peaceful little happy fairy and everything's all happy and good. I'm like, no, these are mischievous creatures. They're mean. They're little sociopaths that like to ruin humans' lives. So I thought it was about time that we started putting some more stories back out there and get back to things like Grimm's fairy tales and, like Dave was saying, the original stories of King Arthur, and letting people know that fairies, they're not always that nice.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So go back to the roots a little bit, if you will. That's cool. Now, before we jump into everything about the book and what's going on in Kickstarter and whatnot, let's rewind a little bit if we could. And maybe if you guys can introduce yourselves a little bit. Mike, you're involved in board games and stuff as well?
Yeah, so Fiction Vortex is a creative company, very much in startup phase right now. We're trying to get our chops out there, and we have a few different programs out there. One of them is our publishing arm of the company, and that is FV Press. And we focus on what we call story verses, which is shared universes that multiple authors write in, and they write their own series within that universe, and it just makes it so people can create more robust story world. It's a lot like how people are looking at Marvel verse, the DC verse. You see Star Wars, you see Star Trek, you see these huge worlds, and then there's lots of storylines within them. So we figured, why not try to focus on doing some publishing around that. And anthologies are just sort of a fun thing to do as well. So that's why we will break out into those every once in a while. And just exactly like Grifty Shades of Fae. The other thing that we've got going on is the actual program called Story Shop, which is the tool that we use for the collaborative process and writing with other people and keeping track of all the story details and the world details. And then the third arm is FV Games. And yeah, so we've got a couple games in development as well. One that we're hoping to launch next month, probably into a Kickstarter as well.
Oh, wow. What's that all about?
The one that we'll be launching is a dice-based game. It's called Final Minutes Zombie Apocalypse, and it's all about trying to survive the zombies and not get eaten. And if you do, you can turn into another zombie and eat your neighbor, and it's all fun.
Oh boy, sounds fun. So, Mike, how did you get into games and then also stories?
I've always enjoyed reading, and I think, and David can probably agree with this, I would hope that if you love reading a lot, eventually you're going to get into the mechanics of it and start wanting to write and develop your own abilities for storytelling. And I think there's a lot of fun that happens in writing, as well as the stories that can be told in games as well.
Most definitely.
Oh yeah, I was going to say certainly. When I was younger, I started doing role-playing games, and I was the dungeon master for a large group. And we developed our own games, and that led me into working in video games, and I think all of that helped lead me into writing and becoming a novelist as well. So I agree. They seem to be connected.
Awesome. And you pretty much went the other way around. Like you started with the games and then now you're complete, you just do author stuff, don't you?
Well, yeah, I had wanted to be a writer since I was 16, and I think I got into gaming when I was about 22. And once I started getting into gaming, I got really heavy into that for a little bit. I don't know whether it led me into being an author. I think I kind of developed both of them at the same time, but certainly the gaming honed my skills because when you're running a big game and you've got 27 different people in the room and you're trying to keep all of them satisfied, as the dungeon master, you've got to be quick-witted and try to think of how do I please this person over here, for example, who is really focused on hunting for treasure in the room, while this person over here wants to do battle, and that one is trying to figure out, some sort of a mystery, and so all of that I think helped prepare me for storytelling a lot better.
Awesome. And you went into writing some like epic fantasies or whatnot. That's what I know you best for. Your like Rune Lords. I think that's the name of the series.
Yeah, my Rune Lord series is a New York Times best-selling series, and I've written for Star Wars for Lucasfilm, and of course had my own science fiction books, and did a little bit with oh gosh, just a bunch of different things. I've written about 60 different novels now, and so and then of course video game design and video game scripting and things like that.
What on the video game side? What games would somebody know?
Well, I did. My first game that I did was called StarCraft's Brood War,
Nobody's heard of that, right?
and then I worked with a little company in Utah for a bit, and we did a lot of things, but certainly StarCraft was probably the biggest one that I worked on. A lot of them were just fight games and stuff like that, working with Xena and you know things like that.
Fun, awesome. Now, Mike, so Grifty Shades of Fae, it's a fiction anthology, and so what is the premise? What's going on in it?
It's just the idea I want to. Well, the word grift is a con game, a confidence game. So it's all about how fairies are tricking people and getting them to do awful things, or getting them to do things that they think are good that turn out to be awful things. I've not read very many of the stories yet. I've just been lucky enough to get some authors signed on, and it's gonna be fun. They all know that it's gauged around crazy fairies that want to mess up your life, and then also there's bound to be some aspects of fun and intrigue and darkness and humor and all the above. But of course, one thing that I did want to tell people, that even though it might bear some similarities to a different title of a very popular book, uh, there is no eroticism or anything of that sort in this collection of books. As the editor, I will make sure that is the case. I actually, Fiction Vortex or FV Press has made it a point that we won't publish anything that's not, basically if you were to put a rating on it, a higher level, or that goes above a higher level of PG-13. So we like to make it so something that lots and lots of people can read, wide range of audience.
That's good to hear. And like I talked about in a couple episodes prior to this, about how you got a couple of my favorite authors in certain genres to participate. Like we're talking right now with Dave Farland, who I would say is my favorite author for epic fantasy, even though I haven't read his stuff for a while. And then Michael Brent Collings, I love his horror novels. Who else do you have on board?
No, I was gonna say, yeah, I'm happy Michael Brent's gonna be part of it, because he's bound to write something horribly dark that will give people nightmares, and that's the way it should be with fairies.
Yeah, with his nightmare thing going along with that, I forget what the name of the title was, but it was one where there was like a blob and they were in a psychiatric hospital or whatnot. And so I was reading it all the time, and then I worked at a hospital at the time. And so it was really hard for me to go through the psych ward when I had to deliver medication.
Yeah, yeah, probably a little too close to home. Some of the other authors we have. Let me pull up the list as we're doing this. I should have had this prepared before, but of course we got Dave Farland, which I was absolutely humbled that he'd be willing to partake of this experience. I'm really excited about that. So we have Johnny Worthen, good friend of mine. He's gonna bring some fun. I've always enjoyed his character development.
What genre does he write in?
I guess you could put some of his as horror, or I don't know. It's sort of hard. Maybe urban fantasy.
He's also got a good sense of humor too. It might be he ought to be interesting. And didn't you have Dave Butler in there too, if I remember right? Or
I actually asked Dave, but he's so packed in his schedule that he can't jump in and do it, which I'm bummed out about it. Um, I've got AJ Benson, who is actually a referral from you, Dave. Um, that's coming in on the project. Martin Shoemaker, uh, Patty Patty Larson, who writes cozy mysteries and things of that sort. So, and she likes to develop the fantasy worlds. Um, Another author I can say is we've got Kevin L. Nielsen, who's going to be in it, and then one of the authors from Fiction Vortex who's written for us or is in the process of writing some stuff for us. His name's Clayton Snyder. Uh, he wrote a story for Fiction Vortex back in the day when we were a short story magazine, and it was called Cthulhu Misspelled, and a gentleman misspells Cthulhu and ends up summoning the cousin of Cthulhu, and it still turns out really bad, but it's a humorous story. And so he's going to be on it, and he's always got a good sense of humor. There's some other slots that are open, and I'm just trying to find some more people to fill in, it, and be willing to participate in the project.
So how many stories are they each writing? Like one short story about fairies, then, or what's the plan?
Yeah, it can be about fairies. It can be about gnomes. It can be about pixies. It can be like Dave was talking about King Arthur and the I guess you could say the higher versions of the fair folk, which would be wizards and the Lady of the Lake, and I can never pronounce it right. I know it's spelled Sidhe is the one of the technical terms for them.
Sidhe? Yeah, and that includes also like Harold Fairhair, who was the uh, you know old Norse Danish hero, was known for fighting off trolls and things like that that other kings were worshiping and stuff like that. So bringing in Norse mythology and stuff like that ought to be fair game too, probably.
Oh yeah, and I would think it. I would hope it would be the amalgamation of Celtic mythology, Norse mythology, even going into the Black Forest. Uh, I Baba Yaga and things like that. I would love to see all of that involved in it. I don't know much about Chinese or Japanese mythology, but I know I wouldn't be adverse to that either. I would think it'd be fun to maybe hear some more stories about fox spirits or anything like that.
It sounds pretty cool to me. So, as you know, this is a board gaming podcast, so a lot of the people we talk to are board games. I imagine some of them read, but Mike, why should they go check out the Kickstarter campaign for Grifty Shades of Fae, a fiction anthology, and if they like what they see, back it on Kickstarter? What makes this project pop?
The title, for one thing, it's a great title. I'm always going to pat my back on that one. And additionally, it's they're going to be great stories. Majority of the family is going to be able to appreciate them and enjoy them. But also, it's like I was saying, Fiction Vortex is in a startup phase, and we're trying to get our chops out there. We're trying to get some street cred, and this will help us be able to get into more projects and develop more fun storytelling avenues, board games included. We've actually got 4 different board games in development. We're just wanting to make sure we wait until we have a great audience that we can really kick it out to and make it so that it works out.
There you go. So they can start by reading the books and stuff. Now, imagine there's going to be some art as well in the book, or is it just going to be all text?
We have our artist, Niels Christensen. He has created the cover. And if you go to the Kickstarter page, there's some other little pictures of some fairies. There's one that seems like a very common fairy, and then there's one that's this sort of a buff green fairy that we don't have a very nice name for him, and I won't say it. But and then there's another one that is a very looks like a normal fairy until you look at the face, and he actually copied that one from Mr. Bean. The face looks just like Mr. Bean, so it's like that's, I think that would be pretty indicative of fairies. They might lead you to think that they're beautiful until they turn around and you're like, oh. So yeah. And so he's going to be creating some more artwork for it. One of the a couple of the rewards are there's digital paper or digital wallpapers, but also some badge buttons that we're going to create. Some of them might be a little irreverent, but that's all going to be revealed more as the campaign moves on.
Cool, awesome. And so they want to go ahead and back. What pledge level? What's the best pledge level to go with if you want to read the book?
So if you're an ebook person, the tech savvy activist, I believe that's what it's called. I should know my own
terminology here.
Terminology. Of course,
Yeah, it looks like there's a digital activist, and then like you can go on to Tech Savvy and get a paperback carrying Warrior, which is kind of cool. And then it looks like I picked Tech Savvy Keeper of Sacred GSOF Tome.
Yeah, so that's the Keeper of the Sacred Grifty Shades of Fae Tome. That would probably be my favorite one. That's the hardback version. So there's that, but then you can also just get the paperback version or the digital version, or you can go all out and do the Grifted and Talented level, which is the highest level we have, and it comes with all kinds of other fun perks, and including one of the things we're pretty happy about. It's a copy of the book, but inside is completely blank. It is a decoy book, and it can be used as a journal, or you can play a prank on somebody. But it will have also, the cover will vary slightly because it will have an evil fairy's face on it as opposed to the sweet, kind looking fairy that's on the cover of the main book. But of course, you get that in addition to the actual book. So
okay, so you got the fake book and the real book as well. Awesome. And it looks like you got a lot of stuff in the works, and we'll make sure we leave links in the show notes and everything. So mine is coming there to your hometown to stalk you, Mike. How are people going to keep up with you and what you're doing over there at Fiction Vortex?
Definitely follow us on Facebook. We do quite a bit of activity there. A lot of it's just our snarky comments and memes, but we're starting to get more information out. Especially as Story Shop is going to start getting out there more. We just got the newest edition out a couple months back, and we're really starting to push that more. So you're going to see our story verses from Fiction Vortex, which are powered by Story Shop, the writing software, start making more of a debut out into the world.
Okay, awesome. And there's an app for that, I imagine?
There will be an app eventually. We have one out right now, but it's not got the power that we want for it. Basically, what happened is we realized, hey, we want to make a really awesome app, but we didn't have the wagon to carry it, I guess you could say. And so that's where the Story Shop program came into play. We're hoping that we can launch an app within the next year, a better version of it that will be a reader app for everybody to be able to read our information. But fictionvortex.com and Facebook, those are some of the best places to follow us.
Awesome. And I know you had to skedaddle a little early, but we appreciate you coming on this show today, Mike.
No, I appreciate you having me, and I think this is the first time David and I have actually ever talked, so it was nice meeting you as well, David.
Yeah, it's good talking to you.
All right. Well, you guys have a good night. I'm going to go ahead and sign off.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Now, before we go ahead and let you go, Dave, we don't want people to come to your hometown and stalk you either. So how would they keep up with you?
They can keep up with me by going to My Story Doctor at online, mystorydoctor.com, or they can look me up at davidfarland.com.
Okay, awesome. And it looks like you got a board. They're going to make a board game out of one of your series as well, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm working with a company called Red Gin Productions, and they're making a board game based upon the Rune Lords. They've got it, I'd say, 90% complete. They're looking at starting a Kickstarter in the next few weeks. So that's coming along really nicely, and I've looked through some of the gaming materials and stuff. It looks like a lot of fun.
Awesome. You said in the next couple weeks?
Yeah, I think that I know that they're planning on taking the board game and they're going to be going to some big gaming conventions in Europe, and they'll be going to um, oh, what's the one back east?
Gen Con or...
Gen Con. Yeah, they're going to Gen Con, and we'll be introducing it there and that kind of thing. I'm not sure what all conventions they're going to, but I just talked to them a couple of days ago, and I actually tried to contact them tonight to find out if I could share some artwork with them or something, and haven't been able to hear from them yet.
Oh, that's okay. But you said they're going to be doing a Kickstarter as well?
That's right.
Well, that's pretty cool.
They've got quite a bit of it funded, but I think that they want to. I mean, Kickstarters really help not just with funding a game, but also with popularizing it, let people know that it's out there.
Yeah, most definitely. You got to see if you're going to market. What company is it? Do you mind? Are we able to ask that?
Yeah, it's called Red Gin Productions. REDDGAINN Productions.
And will this be their first first game that they're doing?
Yeah, this is their first game. John D'Angelo, who runs the company, is a musician, and works as a video producer, shooting videos, music videos, and things like that. So he's um, kind of got a nice artistic bent, and he also likes to do artwork too. And so he got some of his friends. He's really big into gaming, and he was a huge fan of the Rune Lords. And so I was really impressed with what he put together when I looked at his materials for the story arcs and whatnot in the game itself, and went through and I helped edit the stuff for him. But he's really seems quite sharp, so I'm excited to see what he's doing.
Well, that's pretty cool. Do you know much about it, or is there much you can say? Like, what kind of game is it? A board game or a card game, or?
It's a board game, and it has cards, and you play a character who's going on an adventure in the world of the Rune Lords. In the world of the Rune Lords, I have a kind of unique magic system where the lords can take attributes from their vassals. So you can take the strength from one person and the beauty from another and the intelligence from a third. But of course, if you take those things from them, the person who was beautiful becomes ugly, the person who was intelligent becomes an idiot, and the person who was strong may die from the inability of their heart to pump their own blood. So, you know, you have to take this and know that it's a very dangerous thing, and it's on some slippery moral ground. So there's a lot of depth and complexity to the game besides just being a game about how do you get attributes from other people.
Oh, cool. And does it go along with your story lore from the series?
Yeah. We took some characters who were not major characters and created side stories, but we'll have appearances by major characters and things like that. One of the things that we have to worry about is we've got some interest in the movie, and the question becomes, okay, can we tie up major characters and have them in the game and stuff? And right now we thought, okay, we'll play it safe. So we're using the magic system, but and the world of the Rune Lords, but not a lot of the major characters.
Oh, okay, awesome. Well, hopefully we'll get you back on the show, maybe with the designers themselves to talk about it. But I hate to be a killjoy, but I got to go get my daughter. But I really appreciate you coming on Getting Geeky with Gamer Leap with us to talk all about this, Dave.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good one. Let's take a walk, not to the corner store, but to Kickstarter Corner.
What is this place? What is it doing here in the Leaves computer? Oh, it's Kickstarter Corner with the Leaves.
Did you catch our episode on Tuesday the 22nd of April? No? Well, go back and give it a listen. We sat down with Kirsty and Sherman to talk all about Endless Realms, Tome of Spirits, which sounds like an awesome resource to add to your role-playing game arsenal. As well, I really love the art. You can easily access the interview by scrolling down near the bottom of their Kickstarter campaign page. Give it a listen. Check out the Kickstarter and then back it before Thursday, the 23rd of May. Shard Hunters the card game. It's simple and dynamic gameplay, exclusive artwork, love dark fantasy games but don't have much time? Then this 20-minute game is for you. Some things about the game: actions happen simultaneously, no handicap for new players, no stealing, no player elimination, and monster cards are completely language independent. Plus, the art is amazing. Jump on over and check out their Kickstarter campaign and back it before Friday the 10th of May. If I got asked who's your favorite designer that if you could, you'd want all their games, that's easy. Hands down, I'd say Ta Te Woo. He's back. This time, it's a game that uses my favorite mechanics of deck building in Promenade, the game of impressionist art, in which you become the most prestigious painting collector in a 2 to 4 player economic deck building game of impressionistic art. Players are art collectors and the goal is to manipulate marketing value by acquiring and exhibiting impressionistic paintings. Players receive points by exhibiting paintings from their hand and additional points from the paintings and gold in their collection at the end of the game. When the game ends, the player with the most victory points wins the game. Go check it out and back the Kickstarter before Sunday, May 12th. Plus, you can go and search on my website for Promenade, and you should be able to find the episode that way. You enter the unknown dungeon as the hunter. Turn by turn, the dungeon reveals itself to your party. You must adapt your strategy. Choose when to forge ahead or when to step back and regroup. The dungeon can be unforgiving, and even in competitive play, you might find it necessary to forge alliances to survive. Your team makes noise as they explore. The more noise they make, the more they risk awakening the dark evil that lurks within. Soon you realize that you have become the hunted. Sound familiar? Not my fault. You missed the Dungeons of Infinity on Kickstarter? Yes, that was my fault. Well, I'm here to mend my mistakes, to let you know we're not too late. If you missed the campaign, don't dismay. Click the link in my show notes to show your support and not have to be worried if it won't reach its funding goal, because it's already been done for you on the Kickstarter. Dungeons of Infinity is a board game for 1 to 5 players set in a mythical kingdom ruled by King Armiger. His land is full of dungeons built in the distant past. He recruits teams of heroes to delve into many dungeons to free the land from the evils that lie within. Head on over and make your pledge today by clicking the link in the show notes before you miss it yet again. Last but not least is Titana Machina, which is a crunchy giant robot brawl that reminds me of Rampage, the video game, minus the dexterity, but with cool robots. They're also doing a giveaway at thegiveawaygeek.com. Can't figure out how to pronounce the name of the game? Me neither, so I just asked in my interview with Robert. Go give that a listen in my interview with him. It's easily accessed by going to their Kickstarter page entitled, How Do You Pronounce This Word? Tachina Machina. Go listen and check out their Kickstarter and the giveaway and back the campaign before May 20th. Just like with all the other games we talk about, if you thought anything that we talked about was cool, we'd encourage you to go check out them on the Kickstarter now, and any of the other games we talked about, either episode sponsors or Kickstarter Corner. See if they're in your genre of games, and if you like them, let's show a little bit of support to them. Do it through our links on our Kickstarter show notes, so you can show Game Relief a little bit of love as well as these creators. Let's keep them coming to Getting Geeky with Game Relief. It's our least favorite time, and I'll let Princess Leaf carry the show out, okay? We'll catch you on the flip side. Game Relief, and here's Princess Leaf, but I'm out. Well, I guess it's time to say goodbye to our audience. How do we let them know we're going anywhere?
Stay geeky, get geeky, and bring others into the geek fold. Catch you on the flip side. Game Relief and Princess Leaf out.
Out.
Game over. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf and Dreams are respawned.